Here we go, 4th and 6.
He's going to have to hang on to the ball for a second and try and find someone over the middle.
Here comes the rush. Here's the throw. Oh, what a tackle by Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden, look at the far.
That's short, Jim. The Steelers are going to win this game.
It's got a half
wow,
yard.
Their playoff lives on the line, and what a tackle.
It's not just his playmaking. It's the presence that he brings. He's got leadership skills. He's got great experience. He smiles in the face of adversity. That's contagious. There was some tangible and intangible quality to his presence today.
Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews. Happy Victory Monday and welcome to the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. Joe Hayden missed 4 games coming back to play the Titans yesterday at Heinz Field. The Steelers winning 19-13, an exciting one going down to the wire. We're going to break it all down for you and look ahead just a little bit. Let's introduce you to our panelists. Charlie Batch, former Steelers quarterback. You can also hear him on the DVE postgame show. Matt Williamson of Steelers Nation Radio also helps out with Steelers.com, and Dave Dameshek from the Extra Points Network. And guys, bring in the holiday spirit, Dave. We like it. A few milestones, a little housekeeping, as we'll say, happened yesterday at Heinz Field. Not just the win was exciting, but for Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, he has now passed Phillip Rivers for the 5th most passing yards in NFL history. It came in the second quarter on a 3-yard pass to running back Najee Harris. And T.J. Watt also kind of on a pitch count similar to Joe Hayden, coming back from injury, the new sack king. He has passed James Harrison's 2008 record. Debo had 16 sacks. T.J. now has 17.5. He's also the third player in NFL history to have the most sacks in first 5 seasons. Reggie White and his brother J.J. Watt only have more than him right now. Maybe he'll catch up to J.J. We will see. But that is why so many people having great games. And James Harrison tweeted a little congratulations to T.J. And appropriately enough, he set his record by sacking Kerry Collins of the Tennessee Titans. So a little good juju there in terms of facing the Titans for the Steelers outside linebackers. But TJ, Joe Hayden, just one of the few that you could say could get the game ball. And we asked fans on Twitter today to give us who their game ball winner would have went to. So let's take a look at some of the answers. As we said, Victory Monday, always a good thing here. Heather, just using a GIF of Joe Hayden, very excited at the end of the game. As you can imagine, a lot of votes for him. Minka, he now has 100 tackles, the first time he's done so in his career. Playing a phenomenal game, got a shout out from Coach Tomlin. Also, Ben Roethlisberger, always keeping them in it. Definitely somebody who is tough as heck. Chris Boswell also really helping the Steelers when they weren't able to score. So for you guys, we'll start with you, Charlie. If you have one game ball to give, who's getting it from you?
I'm going Minka Fitzpatrick. I mean, this is a guy, 14 tackles yesterday, but some of those tackles that he was making in the open field, that is a true definition of the last line of defense as he was bringing down tacklers. So I was extremely impressed with him all around, and he was getting those guys going, and when they needed to make a stop, he was around the ball. So that's where my game ball's going.
All right, Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I was going to pick Minka. I'm going to go and shift to go to Watt. I mean, he was just fantastic, a force of nature. Beating double teams, making play after play, demanding a ton of attention. And then to piggyback off what Charlie said, it's not ideal for your safeties to combine for 24 tackles, but what if they didn't?
Dave, what about you?
Listen, maybe it's the holiday season. I'm feeling sentimental, nostalgic, spiritual about black and gold matters. Yes, Boz. I mean, what Boswell has done, and consider the culture of the Steelers. A lot of franchises would have kicked the kicker to the curb, not like Urban Meyer kicked his kicker in preseason. They would have gotten rid of Boswell a couple of years ago when things got shaky, and now he is as dependable as anybody. We could go with number 7. All the local Scrooges and national voices out there that disparage this Lion in winter, they keep winning games. Let's celebrate the last few we have with the future Hall of Famer. 18 years, that's almost half my life of being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. He's been under center for him. I think he deserves a little more celebration, but I'm going with Cam Hayward, who personifies the Steelers way. Coach Tomlin said after the game, we've got issues, but culture isn't one of them. And Mean Joe weighing in, Ryan Clark, Rocky Blyer, a lot of ex-Steelers weighing in and wringing their hands about where the Steelers are. Cam Hayward has been the bridge to the Steeler way, and we can turn our nose up at it. And I don't care much about standing on other teams' logos before the games, all that sort of thing. But you could be a Jags fan. You could be a Browns fan. You're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And once again, the Pittsburgh Steelers, you can get cynical about whether or not it's important to go 500 again for Mike Tomlin. It does matter. That's a standard that no one else literally has been able to live up to in the 21st century. Let's celebrate it. Once again, the black and gold has delivered us fans into a relevant conversation at the end of another pro football season. We're very lucky.
And Ben Roethlisberger also never having a losing season. Charlie, the Green Bay Packers, the only team so far in the league to clinch a playoff spot. The AFC has been pretty wild this year. Do the Steelers have it in them to will themselves into the postseason?
I think they do. It's going to be a challenge for sure, but this is a great test for this team, because if they talk about being in the playoffs, what better way to now test yourself by these opportunities that you have left on the roster. So, on the schedule. So this is very important. I think, winning all the rest of these games, the last three, gets them in for sure. 2 or 3 possible. But when you talk about that momentum, kind of in the manner that Keith Butler did last week when he said, hey, remember back in 2005, you got hot, and we got hot at the right time. This is essentially the same type of case. Everything is right in front of you. It can't be any clearer. And just like you heard Mike Tomlin talk about, hey, we don't have to worry about what happens in other stadiums. We handle our business inside of it.
Matt, your thoughts on that, especially, going off the momentum of beating the Titans and knowing that the season is not over yet?
Oh, it's far from over. There's no question about it. I don't think they've played like a traditional playoff team, like, oh, that's a no-brainer contender, but that doesn't really matter. At this time last year, Tampa Bay Buccaneers were coming off their bye week and never lost another game. That's the way this league works. However, the AFC is very crowded right now, and I used to think 2 or maybe even 3 teams from the AFC North would get into the postseason. With the way the Colts, Bills, Chargers are playing, I think only one team goes. So you're going to have to win the division.
Dave, sticking with the AFC North, the Ravens were the top of the division, and then the Cincinnati Bengals are now top of the division. Do you agree with Matt along those lines, and just your thoughts overall in the AFC?
Yeah, I'll pat myself on the back. I said about 5 weeks ago that the AFC North would only get one team into the mix here. It's no one's a world beater in the AFC North this season. And I think the Bengals, probably the way things are setting up here, are probably the favorite to get into the mix there. I suspect that they're going to hammer the Ravens next Sunday. But we just saw Tom Brady, the aforementioned reigning Super Bowl champion, get shut out by the Saints. So the idea that it's impossible that Pittsburgh could go into Arrowhead and come out with a victory is overly cynical in my book. I think they do have a puncher's chance there as they're starting to turn the ball over a little bit more. That's been my lament with the Steelers defense this season, is not forcing turnovers of late. That's coming around. That's why they just vanquished the Titans. If they can go in there and do that to Mahomes, who has been turnover prone this season, they do have a chance in this one.
All right, we're going to
Dave,
talk
real
about.
quick, I 100% agree that. I'm sorry.
No, go.
I 100% agree. The key to the rest of these games is the ability to turn the opponent over. To me, that's the critical factor. And they did it yesterday. They haven't done it up till now.
All right, we're going to talk about that Steelers defense. Also, some flaws that maybe they can help get fixed heading into their last 3 games of the regular season. You are watching the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. Guys, let's talk about maybe some of the flaws the Steelers had. Obviously, for both teams yesterday, the quarterbacks were the ones scoring rushing touchdowns. Charlie, what concerns you the most in terms of the Steelers through the end of the regular season?
Well, for me, it's the lack of big plays on offense. Right now you're not seeing that. You see the occasional, chucking one deep and connecting every once in a while, but it's just not consistent enough for me. You're not seeing those deep 18 to 25 yard crossing routes that we're accustomed to seeing. And it just seems like the play action game is non-existent. So as they now try to figure out if they can get this running game going, those are 2 elements that you can immediately capitalize on. And if you can add that to your offense, it takes the pressure off of now trying to continue to gain 2-3 yards in the rushing game, and it flips the field, quite frankly. So those are the things that are missing. And I think if they can get that to this offense, it will now allow them to keep time of possession and allow that defense a break when they need it.
Just a quick update. Zach Gentry spoke to the media today and said that Pat Freiermuth was in the facility. Seems like he's doing good. Of course, he left the game early with a concussion. But, Matt, that is definitely somebody that you would want in your lineup for the rest of the year. What do you see in terms of flaws and things that maybe are fixable or not fixable for the Steelers?
Yeah, I agree with Charlie, and it'd be nice to attack the middle of the field in the passing game. Freiermuth obviously is a huge part of that, and looks like he's a very bright career. I like the way he played, too, as a receiver before he was injured. But my worry is the run defense. I mean, they tried numerous different people out there. They played against a team that was devoid of receivers, so they were able to leave their corners on islands and single high safeties and things like that. And they still allowed way too much production on the ground. I don't know that that gets fixed this year, unfortunately. And the Titans run the football very well, with or without Henry. Their offensive line's built for it, but it'll be a lot harder to put that many people in the box going forward.
Dave, in terms of the Steelers' defense, is it kind of similar? Maybe what will work moving forward? What they did yesterday with T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, Joe Hayden, being on a little bit of a pitch count and getting some other guys rotating in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately the problem's not fixable over these last few games. They just don't have the bodies at the line of scrimmage offensively or defensively. So I'm with Matt 100% on that. My big concern is, in more, I guess, temporal terms, is there's just no wiggle room at this point. Maybe they can lose one of these last 3 games, but then they lose control of what happens to them. Then they're dependent on the Bengals beating the Ravens, but then the Ravens beating, and the Browns beating the Bengals in week 18, and the Steelers have to beat the Ravens in Baltimore. So there's a lot that will need to go on there. I think, for better or worse, Cam Hayward, Joe Hayden, the guys that are maybe a little longer in the tooth, have to be out there because there just aren't other options to be had right now.
Charlie, going back to the Steelers offense, is there a way to maybe give them more of an identity or get that run game going, as you were alluding to?
Well, it's going to be difficult at this point to get the running game going, only because this is the best that you're going to see after 14, 15 weeks. So, they just have to now, creativity, or maybe there's some, differences as far as what they're maybe lining up with offensively, shifts, motions, in those different packages. But this is just what we're going to get. And it's just kind of tough because they don't have an identity. We've been talking about this the entire year. Middle of the year, it looked like they were getting that running game going, then that faltered. So I just don't know. And I think right now it's probably going to be week to week based off what they feel like they can attack. But I think ultimately when you get to this level, you're probably going to say, hey, Ben Roethlisberger, this is yours. You've been here. You've done that. Let me know what you think is going to work, and we're going to ride with you.
All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me here today on the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. We will see everybody right back here next Monday. Have a great day.
What's up, Steeler Nation? It's Terrell Edmonds. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers official YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on everything going on in the Steel City. Thanks for being the best fans of football, and here we go.